Hey, it's Dr. Jade, Teta, and welcome to Metabolic Living's Immunity Upgrade Blueprint. In today's lecture, we're going to talk about in depth the overview of fat burning and what to do to help keep the fat burning going after a workout. Now, don't forget, the best defense is a strong immune system, and you get a strong immune system by understanding how to build a strong, resilient, and robust metabolism. Remember, the metabolism is a battery source for the immune system. So the immune system can do its job fighting microbes like bacteria and viruses to make us and keep us healthy. All right, so let's get into this. A lot of people misunderstand what exactly is going on when we are, quote, burning fat. And I think this is going to give some really nice context for individuals so that we can understand all the things that can go wrong and what we can do to help our metabolism burn fat more efficiently. So when you burn fat, there's essentially several steps that happen here. The first thing that happens is the fat cell has to release the fat, and this is called lipolysis. Lysis meaning breaking, lipid meaning fat. So this is literally breaking apart fat and then releasing it into the bloodstream. Now, releasing fat from a fat cell is not fat burning, and this is what's very, very important. Just because a fat cell releases some fat doesn't mean that fat will be burned. So let's follow this fat around the body and see what happens. The next thing that happens is the fat that is released from the fat tissue needs to get to an area where it will be burned, like the muscle. And so it flows through the blood. Now, this is important because certain areas are not as well perfused with blood as others, and certain receptors in certain types of fat are definitely associated with less blood flow. For example, women tend to have more alpha receptors in the areas of the body, like the hips, butt, and thighs, which means that they release less fat from those areas and that those areas may actually achieve less blood flow so that that fat is not carried away, which may be one of the reasons why women tend to have more stubborn fat on the hips, butt, and thighs, and men tend to have more stubborn fat in the love handles. However, just because that fat is floating around in the blood doesn't mean that it's automatically going to get burned. Once it gets to the cell that needs the fat for energy, it enters into that cell. This is called translocation of fat. And then fat burning happens, and that is called lipid oxidation. So lipolysis, fat release, and lipid oxidation are at least 2 steps removed. The two are not synonymous. And the reason I bring that up is because most people think that they are synonymous, and they are not, and that's important to understand. That's how fat burning happens. Fat is released, fat flows through the blood, the fat enters a cell that needs to burn it, and then that cell burns it and creates movement and or heat. Now, let's talk about this and what can go wrong. Fat can be released, lipolysis, flow through the blood, and then insulin resistance, metabolic inflexibility, or just the fact that you're not moving and the body doesn't need to use that fat can cause blockage of fat entry and fat burning and cause that fat to be restored. This happens an awful lot when we are potentially under stress. Let's say you're sitting at work, working out, you get stressed because you get a deadline under work, or you're sitting in traffic and your body releases adrenaline and noradrenaline, and that causes fat to be released, lipolysis. But because you're sitting in your car and can't move, that fat has nowhere to go. Or maybe because you ate too much that particular day, that fat has nowhere to go. Your body doesn't need to burn it, and so it just restores it. And this is something that most people are not aware of. So just because you release fat does not mean you're burning that fat. You need to release it and then use it. And this is one of the reasons why exercise is so critical, especially when we are under stress. When we exercise, we generate stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. You might think this is bad, but no, it's not. We actually want high stress hormones while we're exercising. These hormones tend to release glucose and fat, so we can use them for energy during exercise. So this is a very good thing when we are exercising. Not to mention, when we're exercising, not only do we release adrenaline and cortisol and things like that to release fat, but we also are moving our muscles so that the blood flow and the energy needed by the muscle causes that cell to take in that fat and burn that fat. Not to mention, exercise is also coupled with other hormones like human growth hormone and testosterone that work synergistically with hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to help us burn fat but maintain our muscle. So this is why exercise is super important. And this happens whether you're lifting weights or doing cardiovascular types of exercise. Now, one of the best things that you can do after working out might be doing low and slow, long duration stuff like a nice, relaxing leisure walk. Not a jog necessarily, because a leisure walk does a couple things. Leisure or leisurely walking, relaxing walking, lowers cortisol. While we want cortisol and stress hormones high during the workout, we want them lower after the workout. Not only that, when we continue moving our body after some intense exercise, perhaps we get to burn up a little bit more of that fat that was released during the workout. And so that's one of the reasons why here at Metabolic Living we often say do short duration, high intensity exercise that combines weight training and cardio, and then go for a long walk in addition to that. The weight training helps release human growth hormone and testosterone. The combination of the high intensity interval type of training and cardio helps release more adrenaline and cortisol. Remember the B's and the H's, breathless, burning, heavy, and heat. And then the walking afterwards helps to lower stress hormones and use up some of the fat that was released. And so this is partly how we want to be thinking about this. How else could you use this information? Well, if you're stressed at home and you're not able to move and you have some adrenaline and cortisol release and stress hormones around, get up and do something intense. Do some push-ups, do a minute of squats, do some burpees, do exercise snacking is what it's called in the research, where you do 1 minute of intense exercise. It doesn't cause you to sweat because it's too short, but it will use up some of that fat and cause some of that fat that was burned, or released rather, to be burned. Now, also, doing anything relaxing and restorative can help, but I did want to make a distinction here because many people think yoga and those kinds of things are relaxing, and they certainly can be. But remember, there's different types of yoga and stretching and things like that. There's very yin-based yoga or restorative yoga, and there's very sort of yang-based yoga or power yoga or very stimulating yoga. So just because it's, quote, yoga does not necessarily mean it can be relaxing, because some people might say, well, Jade, what if I do some Tai Chi or some relaxing yoga or just some stretching and, slow biking or something like that? All of that can be great so long as it's slow and relaxed and doesn't keep the heart rate up. Post-exercise, we want to bring the heart rate down. Now, a lot of people oftentimes ask about, okay, well, what about post-exercise nutrition, Jade? So if we're talking about the idea that I'm going to release fat and then I want to burn that fat and that some of it can potentially get restored if I don't, do I want to necessarily eat after my workout? It would be far better to just walk and to let yourself use up some of that energy. However, post-workout is an interesting time, isn't it? Because certainly with short duration, high intensity exercise, it can have a short-term appetite suppressing effect, can it? Which gives us a unique opportunity to put on something that might not be as palatable to control hunger for longer, like a protein shake or some chicken salad or something like that, or rather a salad with chicken on it. And so eating post-workout that you see many athletes do, they're doing that mainly to help with recovery and or gain muscle. If you're someone who's primarily concerned with fat loss, you don't necessarily need to eat right afterwards, but going for a walk or something like that might help. However, if you find that you get rebound hunger 30 to 40 minutes after intense exercise, you might want to eat closer to exercise right after or within 30 minutes or so that you don't get that rebound hunger and cravings kicking in. So this was just a lecture to kind of give you an idea about how fat burning really happens. There are really 3 steps to fat burning. Just because fat gets released does not mean it gets burned. And post-workout walks and relaxing activity can definitely help with that. And also post-workout nutrition can play a role both in helping you recover and or keeping the fat burning going. So hopefully that's helpful for you. Thanks so much for watching today's episode. Remember, you can still join and access all the materials. Just go to metabolicliving.com. All the replays and all the lectures are there, including immune strengthening workouts, meal plans, and recipes. Doesn't matter what your nutrition lifestyle of choice is, paleo, keto, vegan, vegetarian, you name it, we've got you covered. And remember, if you've enjoyed this particular lecture, please share it with all your friends. And do not forget to follow us at Metabolic Living on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Please remember, we're all in this together. We're very happy you're here. It's all about boosting our metabolisms, strengthening our immune system, and flattening this curve together. Thanks for being here, and we will see you at the next session.